These, Ms. Kirk and Ms. Mazzarella, if you want to come up and talk about this.
Mr. Chair, I believe we had a substitute motion on the floor before we...
Oh, we did. You're right. Randy, I'm sorry. That's right. It was a sub. We'll go back and pick that up. Okay.
Lisa Kirk, Bethel Island.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to start with, when you said that you would delete everything from the water plan regarding Bethel Island as a legacy community, so on page 170, which it states that Bethel Island was in the primary zone, that would be deleted?
Well, it's not. First of all, if
I'm confused.
It's not currently in the.
I know it isn't, but the plan
zone.
states that on page 170.
170. Let's look.
Which line? Are you working from a numbered line?
Let me see. 170. It starts. Let's see. It says,
you mean at the bottom under
it
the
says
Delta?
in contrast, the population of the Delta primary zone, Legacy, Bethel Island, Clarksburg, Cortland, Freeport, Ileton, Knights.
That is an error.
Walnut Grove. Okay.
That is an error.
So let's
we'll correct
start with that as an error because
you're correct.
I think there's many errors in here.
Okay.
On page 172.
172.
You talk about
line number, please. The 23.
Yeah, 23. You include us as a Delta Legacy community.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And so let's just start from there. So you're saying your motion is that you're going to take us all out, okay? And then how does that relate to us being put in the Delta Reform Act?
There are two mentions
in here.
One in a Delta Protection Commission mention of Bethel Island, which we've talked about, which is related to boundary changes possibly to be proposed by the Delta Protection Commission. Number two, in a section in the Public Resources Code regarding...
Can you quote those codes? Because I went...
Okay.
I actually put, we're described as a legacy community under 32301F.
That is a direction to the Delta Conservancy.
Okay, so
not to us.
So we would remain as a legacy under that status?
The statute is the statute with regard to that.
Right.
That's Water Code. That is Public Resources Code section 32301 sub F.
Right. So how you're going to take us from the legacy community out of the water
plan? And that, by the way,
plan?
is a legislative finding. It's not a. I think this is Pat. This is one of those uncodified legislative findings, is my recollection.
That's why I was asking.
It says finding and declaration. I think that's right. When you see on the statute.
Okay, I'm just a citizen, okay? This is very confusing for me, but when I looked at the Delta Reform Act, we were in there, and it said, and I'm going to, even from the primary zone study that the Delta Protection Commission did, we are outlined as a vital part of the Delta. And it even gives justification why we should be included as a legacy community. So I'm concerned about why there is a reason to take us out.
You're correct to be concerned.
Okay.
And to be as specific as I can be, the focus of our discussion today is on approving an outline of what the legacy community should be. We've had everything from a small little sliver to the entire island proposed. The county has requested that the entire island be included. Right. That is not consistent with the way we have treated the designation of legacy community. So my recommendation is that we delete Bethel Island from the as a legacy community for now, and wait for some time later for the county to bring forth their recommendation, or the local community to bring forth their recommendation as to exactly what the legacy community designation on Bethel Island should be.
Okay, I'm going to read my statement. Last week, I addressed the council because of incorrect information in the Delta plan regarding Bethel Island, and I had hoped that the submission of our 5-year plan and the letter from FEMA would clarify this for the staff and the council. I believe that the boundary around Delta Cove was a simple error, and that asking that the entire community be considered a legacy was only a correction. I'm now told there's a concern that the status will result in development. I think if you just look at our land use element of the general plan and even the primary zone study, it states that development is limited to one dwelling per parcel. I believe there was a comment yesterday that Contra Costa County created this mess. Let them fix it. The Delta Coves project created this mess. And the adopted land use elements were trying to address the situation from occurring again. I watched the Delta Coves project emerge in 2004 based on conditions from a 1978 EIR and EIS. It did not have to conform with any planning law or county, state, or federal regulations, and it was approved by a judge with a warning to Contra Costa County not to interfere with its development. You can blame Contra Costa County, but I witnessed other agencies remaining silent on their regulatory duties regarding this project. So please, the small community has suffered enough damages as a result of bad planning. We have no fire hydrants. Our fire department is closing the station on the island. We have 20 some odd private well water systems, and none of this will be improved for the entire community at the expense of Delta Coves if it's ever built. One has to wonder why BI was included in the urban limit line. Despite all this, we are a recreational outlet to urbanites. We have 10 marinas that are placed throughout the island. The primary zone study stated that we have the single highest concentration of boating-related facilities in the Delta, and also that the agricultural land located in the central, north, and western portions are identified by the California Department of Conservation as prime farmland of local importance. It goes on to state that our seasonal and permanent wetlands have high critical natural resources by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and other resource agencies. That's all in the primary zone study. You've made the case already. And lastly, that the structural integrity of the levees that surround the island are inadequate to protect the island from flood events. For the last 2 years, I have worked with our district on improving flood protection and funding for our community. Now, this is where we get into when you start changing our status. My concern is that DWR is coming out with 6 objectives that the district will need to prove in order to reduce our share of cost. So here I think where you start messing with a status or putting part of the island in it or not putting in will affect our funding through DWR. And I'm concerned, we started to look at Bethel Island as a disadvantaged community. That's one of the objectives of the Department of Water Resources. And in the research, I started to see legacy community associated with disadvantaged communities. And Bethel will meet that disadvantaged community status. And that will reduce our cost of share. And I am looking at ways, as a citizen, as part of a subcommittee with our reclamation district, to do that. So what you're deciding today could affect how we are funded for flood improvement projects in the future. And you've already been cautioned on this. We all know that thousands of lives are behind this levee system. And if a simple status assists them in improving their flood protection, then we all win. I don't understand why designating the whole community as a legacy community has been such a challenge. I've had a sense of some hostility because of the planning nightmare that we're in with Delta Coves. I'd ask the council post this action until this challenge can be worked out with representatives from Contra Costa County, as not to penalize the citizens of Bethel Island by denying this eventual economic funding opportunity to them. The island's characteristics is deserving as a Delta legacy community and are well outlined in the DPC ESP and should not be disregarded because of some internal conflict. And again, as stated in the Delta Plan, page 172, development in the secondary zone can be coordinated with the Water Code 85022D4, while providing that you protect and enhance Bethel Island or the Delta as an evolving place. And when I started to read page 273 regarding policy P, I think it was RP P2, it states that the policy covers any such action.
That's page 273,
Okay.
lines 16 through 23,
Okay.
members.
And, I was confused that the policy covers any such action anywhere on Bethel Island outside its legacy community. Okay, so you were taking this small little undeveloped property and saying that everybody else on the island has to meet 200-year flood protection? Was that what that meant?
No. What it means, look,
So-
here's, the language in the plan is fairly specific on Bethel Island and its uniqueness. This is not Bethel Island was not a town. It's not like Cortland or Locke or the early communities, but it's been around for a while as a largely recreational area. And you build around the fringes of the island.
From like
And
1898.
that is correct.
And Locke was built in like 1915. So actually we have one up on Locke. I'm very familiar with the other areas in the Delta.
And you are in the secondary zone
Correct.
of the Delta.
Right.
And the other legacy towns are in the primary zone of
Not
the Delta.
all.
Well, it is true that most of Rio Vista is not, but a sliver is. Isleton is within the primary zone, but it's carved out statutorily for treatment. And all the other towns are in the primary zone. And the primary zone, as a result of 1992 legislation, is given a higher status and level of protection. But the uniqueness
What is that level of protection?
against urbanization primarily,
Okay,
and secondly, acknowledging the flood risk that exists, not wishing to see, I think this is a fair statement, although the author of that legislation is here, not wishing to see urbanization of the primary zone of the Delta. And the uniqueness of Bethel Island, you're in the secondary zone.
Right.
You're within the urban limit line of the county
but
of
we
Contra
didn't,
Costa.
again, what I'm trying to explain to you is Delta Coves put us in a very unique planning situation. We didn't, this was done by a court. This was planning by a court. And I think Contra Costa County has done a good job of trying to maintain, without being resued again, by that project.
Yeah, I think your dilemma is this: you're not in favor of the development going ahead if it ever finds
Well,
financing.
it's past that. It's already built. It's past that. But what I am in favor of is seeing the whole community put, not just Delta Coves, but the whole community put under a legacy.
Because it's advantageous for state funding and other activities.
And again, what is the benefit to Locke of being in a legacy community? You're going to protect it from urbanization. Bethel Island's levees, are probably provide less probably protection than the levees up in Locke. I know you just decertified all those levees. We've just trying to meet H&P. So, we're struggling with this. And I think Contra Costa County has done a good job of limiting development on the island. And I think the primary zone study did a good job of stating what the benefits of including Bethel Island as a legacy community, whether primary or secondary. Now, I want to tell you what the additional 3.9 levees that Delta Coves built that attaches to our original levee system will not meet state requirements for subvention or special project funding. I don't know what levee standard they meet because the homes are going to be built directly on top of the levee. And in a flooding event, these homes will be higher but inaccessible because their access will be blocked by floodwaters. So in this statement saying that before future growth in BI that these levees are to meet 200-year standard, yet the Delta Coves does not provide 200-year standard. And again, I think that you need to discuss this policy with Contra Costa County. To be honest, the levees in Bethel Island will never meet 200-year standard.
Joe.
I just want to answer the question. As I understand it, the way the county has zoned Bethel Island, no developments of 5 or more parcels can be permitted, and therefore currently, therefore, the policy that's here that says you have to meet 200 years would not come into play in Bethel Island in any event. So being a legacy community or not being a legacy community would not have an impact on the levee standards. What we have done in the rest of the Delta is said if you're going to have an urban development, which
Right.
we strongly discourage,
Right.
then you should have, and it's outside of existing cities or outside the legacy communities, then you should go up to that standard. And what I'm saying is the legacy community designation, at least based on current land use plans, would have no impact on Bethel Island because that kind of development's not allowable, at least under current rules.
What kind of development?
Delta
Delta Coves?
Yeah, an urban
Okay,
development.
right.
Well,
And-
Delta Coves is already approved.
Right,
but
right,
anything
and
new.
we will have, and that's what I'm trying to get
So
people to
single
see.
houses here and there.
Right,
yes.
we've already had to follow this legacy of the Delta Coves development, approved by a lawsuit, and I'm just tired of being penalized for it. And here we are again. You know, Bethel Island does need the status of a legacy community. We do need help. We need all the help that you're talking about for the other communities. And it doesn't mean that it's going to allow development there. I think Contra Costa County did a good job of doing the land use elements so that we're not going to get more development. So, you know, this is an opportunity for the state and the county to find a solution and not to split the community up into strange flood protection statements. The key word is community. And lastly, even more daunting than Bethel Island's zoning mess and inadequate flood protection is the western line of the water plan. The proposed tunnel runs right under Bethel Island, and I can't find one statement or policy regarding the impact on the levee system regarding the proposed action. I'm asking
You do understand that we are not in charge of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan.
I understand that, but I think that you have to understand. I'm asking the council to evaluate the action and to involve DWR and the Corps. And the Corps is doing a major $9 million project right on the portion of the island where the tunnel is proposed. Has anyone talked to the Corps about that? Just to let you know. And that FEMA should be contacted regarding the funding of a disaster caused by this action. And counties commented on any planning regulations regarding the tunneling. So, I mean, I had to bring that up at some point because we do have the tunnel going through the section that no one wants to include as a legacy community. So I don't know if they have anything to do with each other. But again, if you could postpone the vote and talk one more time with representatives from Contra Costa County, I'd appreciate it.